The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to another UAB Director's Chair. We call it that because, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, if you're watching our brand new Tony Kurre YouTube channel, that is Mark Ingram, the UAB Athletic Director. Mark, how you doing, brother? What's going on?
I'm excellent, Tony. How you doing?
Someone actually emailed me last week and said every time you ask Mark how he's doing, he's really short with his answer. And I think it's because you just want to get right into the podcast. So man,
I'm doing great. Things are good.
What's going on down there in the South Side? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's really good, man. We've got real positive energy down here, and we're off to a strong start in some of our teams. We've got some work to do in others, but no, I'm confident in how we're doing. Our men's golf team has played in 2 golf tournaments. They've won them both.
Oh, good.
Our women's golf team's played in the tournament. They finished second. So our golf programs are doing great. We got a brand new head coach in women's soccer, Lisa Mann. She's off to a strong start. So,
good.
Yeah, those are all doing great. And, I know people pay close attention to football and how Coach Dover's doing. This past weekend we played the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs, and I was so encouraged by that game. The number of positive comments that I've gotten. I mean, even coming out of the stadium that night, Georgia fans kind of shaking their head and they hey man, y'all are good.
No, there was a huge improvement. There was a huge improvement between game 2 and game 3, and it was nip and tuck early in that ball game. Was sitting there, thinking, okay, and then so if you could have taken the beginning of that game and then maybe the end of that game and put those two together, you had something pretty special. I'm not saying they would have won, but to put up 21 points and nearly 400 yards of offense against that defense is there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, I mean it's more points than anybody else has scored on them, and we, as you said, we had 2 more opportunities, I think, where we could have scored again, and it wouldn't have changed the outcome necessarily. But I thought we played a lot better against Georgia than we did against Louisiana, and I think our coaches would say that. And what was the energy in the locker room after the game was not down in the dumps.
Yeah,
it was really positive. You could tell the guys felt like, okay, we got better. We improved, we eliminated some mistakes. And we got better. And so now what you're obviously hoping for is that continues and translates to wins starting this weekend. We got Tulane, who's really good. And so another tough game. The beginning of this season the beginning of the schedule for this season has been pretty tough. You're at Georgia Southern, who's really dang good. And Louisiana, Louisiana is the only team since we reinstated football. It was the only team that beat us at Legion Field.
Yeah, I know, right?
It was our last game at Louisiana at Legion Field. And so anyway, they have done a great job. And, obviously their head coach moved on to Florida, but Billy Napier, but a lot of their staff stayed, and kind of same concepts and things that they were doing. So those are 2 really good programs that we happened to catch in the same year. And then you got the Dogs, and now you got Tulane, who of course won the American last year, and you're on the road, and they won the Cotton Bowl beating Southern Cal. So not exactly a cupcake.
Yeah, I know that you're not a football coach, but you did play college football, and you've been an athletic director pretty much your entire life, and so X's and O's. But talk about Zeno a little bit and how he's progressed throughout his career at UAB. And certainly there's been some times where he just looks lights out, one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. Other times not so much, but he's really progressed quite a bit just this year alone.
Yeah, I think he's a really accurate passer. Let's start here. He's a fantastic kid. He's a fantastic leader. Like, he has all those qualities that you need to have in your quarterback from a leadership standpoint, because it's the most important position on the field. Unfortunately, while everybody has a role and everybody's important, there's no position more important than that one. And so he's got all those intangibles that you must have. So that, number one, is terrific. One thing I think about Jacob, and you look at his career, until this year, he has not been the starter. Mm-hmm. So he's sort of been a career backup to this point, which means he takes the backup reps, not the starter reps. You don't prepare the same, even though, of course, you're always saying to the backup, hey, man, you need to prepare like you might have to go in.
Sure.
And it's not the same. It's just you're not communicating. Even the coaches, no matter who the coach is, even the coaches don't communicate with you the same way as the starter as they do when you're the backup. It's very different. So I was excited to see how he would do through the spring and the summer, and now to where we are. operating as the guy rather than operating as a backup to the guy. And I think he's done terrific. I mean, you see in the very first game, he sets a record for most completions. And his numbers were off the charts. You say, North Carolina A&T. Hey, North Carolina A&T gets up and practices every day, and they lift, and they try to out-scheme you too. And you still got to throw it and catch it. You got to protect, and you got to throw it and catch it. And so I've been really impressed with Jacob. And remember, as fans, and I'm putting myself here too, right? You mentioned there's sometimes he looks lights out and sometimes not. Remember, as fans, we don't know what the play call was. We don't know when that ball goes out and lands out in the grass and there's nobody there, and we all go, where was he throwing it? Well, it might be that he was throwing it to where that receiver was supposed to be, and the receiver didn't run the right route. Yeah. Right. And so it's not always the quarterback, though. The quarterback is the obvious person where, I'll tell you this, and I still don't even know exactly the play, but I know well enough football to know this. The last play of the first half at Georgia, we've got the ball, I don't know, it's on our own 40-yard line. So we're going to throw some sort of Hail Mary type pass. So we have three receivers on the right side of the field, and they go running straight down towards the end zone, as you expect. And then the ball goes behind them, behind them, and just lands out in the grass. Sure. It's not near anybody. But what that tells me was somewhere there's a communication breakdown, and Jacob thought that one of those guys was going to stop, and they didn't. Yeah. So maybe that was Jacob's fault, or maybe that was a receiver's fault. I don't know. I'm certain that they were both told. But nonetheless, that's one of those moments where you go, "Oh, golly, what was he doing?" Well, he might have been doing the right thing. Yeah. Somebody else may not have been doing the right thing. So I'm pleased with Jacob, and I love him as our quarterback. And he's anybody that meets him, you're immediately you recognize all these leadership qualities that he has. Yeah,
38 of 41 in that record-breaking game he had against North Carolina A&T, which is crazy. And he's completed 75% of his passes this year. I remember when you could complete like 55% of your passes, and if you had 2 touchdowns in a game, you had a hell of a game. And now, of course, you're looking at 60, 65, but 75% is crazy. 8 touchdowns and only 4
And even
picks.
if they're short passes, Tony, there's again, you still got to throw it and catch it.
Yeah. And he will wing it down.
So credit to the receivers, too.
Yeah. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. You can check out the UAB Director's Chair right here on our YouTube channel every Monday through Friday. And listen to the show every Monday through Friday on the TKR app. Thanks to the 100,000 folks who have downloaded that app. It's fantastic. Classic rock to the bone. I know Mark listens to it when they're practicing. He's getting after. He loves the classic rock and rolling 13 unique shows, including this one right here. And, of course, also check us out on our podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. You can check it out, UAB Director's Chair. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Nick in Hoover wants to know, what's Mark's idea or his thoughts on the athletes.org organization? We talked about this, I guess, about a month and a half ago. It's an organization that is actually kind of getting together and kind of, what would you say, organized for the student athlete who doesn't really have time to keep in track with what's going on up in Washington, D.C., and what's going on with the NIL, what's going on with transfer portals, what's going on with the NCAA, and with everything going on.
It's a bit of a unionizing plan without calling it a union.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts?
Well, my listen, information sharing is good. If that's what it is, that's great. I think the concern that, the concern that a lot of us have, whether it's this organization or any of them, is the conversations around revenue sharing. First of all, out of the 135 Division I FBS athletic departments, maybe 20, operate and make a profit without any help from the university. Yeah. So you're talking 115 or more are taking some amount of money from their institution to help operate their program. We are not a business. We do not make a profit. We generate revenue, but we do not make a profit. If I had to take some of my revenue and give it to any of my athletes, then how do I run the programs that generate no revenue? Right. And so whether we have a $10 million budget or a $110 million budget, we're spending everything we have back on the athletes. And the people, the talking heads around the country who just have the luxury of having a microphone that disagree with that, it just continues to show this extreme lack of understanding of how this works. And, when they say, oh, it's nonsense, you're making all this money, the coaches make all this money. Well, the coaches can be fired at any time, as can the athletic director. And you're also talking about seasoned professionals in their career, not an 18-year-old right out of high school person. Mm-hmm. So, if you and I both do the exact same job and I'm 18 years old and you're 50 years old, I think you would probably earn more money if we were doing the same work because of your experience and potential other risks at play. And that's the way the working world is. So to say, well, these coaches make too much money. Well, so again, we focus too much on like the top 5%, the top 10 or 20 highest paid coaches rather than the breadth and depth of the entire operation. It's silly to me. And so the concern is, we're talking about revenue sharing. What does that mean for our Olympic sports programs if that happens? And you asked about the organization, but the organization talks about that. Yep. The organization talks about revenue sharing. And so that's problematic. And then furthermore, what we cannot have, and we're so dangerously close already with NIL collectives, is an organization like this one or another one. And I'm not saying that's what Athletes.org is doing, but any organization, third party, starting to act as the agent, meaning, Oklahoma, you need a defensive tackle. You know what? UAB found a kid that nobody wanted. He was undersized, and they've beefed him up. And boy, he's really good. He's a starter there. And you know what? I bet you could get him for $50,000. And because I know that kid through Athletes.org or our organization, whoever it is, because I know him, I can talk to him. Yeah. And I'll tell him to get in the portal legally. Yeah. And you know what? You probably only have to pay him this much money. Mm. You want him? Here, watch this guy. Yeah. You haven't paid any attention. So what we can't have is some organization become a broker for players. And that would be concerned. And I need a finder's fee. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you, Oklahoma, you're going to tell me that you need this player. And I'm going to tell you, because I know this other guy, you're going to pay him $50,000. You're going to give me 10% of that. Yeah. I'm going to take 5 of that.
Yeah. The amazing.
Again, I'm not saying that's what this group is doing, sure, but just any of these sort of organizations, these third-party groups, I become leery of what is the ultimate goal.
The amazing, miraculous story of the Colorado Buffaloes came to a crashing end this past weekend as they took on Bo Nix, of course, a potential Heisman Trophy winner in himself, and he's had a fantastic season. They lose 42-6, only 199 yards of total offense, a team that was averaging well over 450, and now they got USC this weekend. As an athletic director, and everyone was talking about how in the world did he switch out 87 guys, and how did they win these ball games that they won, And I listen, I am a pump the brake guy. I'm like, this society of ours, the news cycle goes so quick. As soon as something, look at you, roll your eyes. The minute something happens, we hop on board it. I call it the sinkhole mentality. When there's a sinkhole in Gardendale, all of a sudden there's sinkholes everywhere. It becomes a story. So chances are, as a 21-point dog, they won't beat USC this weekend. What have we learned about Deion Sanders and what's going on at Colorado?
Well, I don't know if it's so much about Colorado or Coach Sanders, but I think what we've probably learned is that TCU is not quite as good as we thought they might be going into the preseason. So no disrespect to the victory by Colorado. I still think it was a big win because even if I think TCU is ranked 7th preseason, while they might not end 7th or even in the top 10 or 20, they're still probably pretty darn good. Colorado State has had a lot of challenges over the last several years. So the fact that Colorado, to win that game in Colorado, not Colorado State, but in Colorado, had to go to overtime to win, it's probably just more telling about how good Colorado is or isn't. And I think Colorado's pretty good. Yeah. But it probably just settles down to where everybody actually is, and in terms of true, quality and how the ranking's going to shake out. Oregon looked great. Yeah, they did. And again, it's hard to now. What I wonder is, okay, how great are they? Because I don't know how great Colorado really is, but Oregon looked great, and good for Bo Nix. Hats off to that guy. Here's a guy from the state of Alabama who, went to Auburn and was able to transfer out there and sort of reinvent himself. Is just having a great career out there, and good for him.
Another big ball game this weekend. This is the UAB Director's Chair. You can hear the show right here in the TKR app, and of course on our YouTube channel on Tony Kurre Radio. He's Mark Ingram, the UAB Athletic Director. They go from the number 1 team in the land and the Georgia Bulldogs to the number 33 team in the land and the Tulane Green Wave this weekend. A big ball game for the UAB Blazers. Never too early to talk about hoops. I love me some hoops. Give us some details on first games coming up. I know we got an exhibition coming up. Let's get into that first before we ask you a classic rock question.
Well, we start the season first week of November, so we're not far away. So get your season tickets now and make sure you're locked in because the home schedule is awesome. We got SMU here, Memphis here, Wichita State here. It's going to be a ton of fun. Florida Atlantic, which I know our fans in the past would say, they were the Final Four, folks.
Mm-hmm.
The entire team back. So that Final Four team, Florida Atlantic, is going to be here in Bartow.
They get the whole team back today?
Yes,
wow.
They didn't lose anybody.
Wow.
I think they may have lost somebody that was kind of a role player, but they got all their starters back.
Wow, that's pretty.
They didn't lose anybody.
All right, classic rock question of the week. Bruce Springsteen. A lot of people talking about his ticket prices. Tickets were like $2,700 a ticket. Maybe the karma's a son of a gun, but he's got peptic ulcers and he canceled a couple shows and now he's canceled the rest of his tour. He said he'll make it up in 2024. Every city that had a date, he'll bring it back. Question is, have we seen Bruce Springsteen for the last time live on stage? He's 74 years of age. I hope not. I hope not.
74?
But he's 74, but he is the most prolific concert player in the history of, the guy plays 3-hour concerts. If you've ever seen him, you don't even have to like Bruce Springsteen. It's a fantastic show. It's like a Garth Brooks kind of thing down at Protective.
Yeah.
But I'm getting a lot of questions. Do you think we've seen Bruce Springsteen for the last time? And I'm kind of like, gosh, I hope not. It's peptic ulcers.
I hope not. I bet not. If he's saying that he's going to make it up next year, then that tells you that his plan is to do that. If his health changed things,
he looks damn good for 74.
I agree with you. When you said that, I was a little surprised. I don't know what I would have guessed, but I'm not sure I would have guessed 74. But now that I think about my own age, maybe I got to remember how much older I am.
He looks good.
I think like I'm 20, but I'm not.
Yeah. He is thin and he is brown. He is tan. He looks fantastic. All right, UAB Sports.
A lot of good-looking days at the Jersey Shore.
No doubt. UABsports.com, UABsports.com for tickets and information on UAB Sports. Go Blazers and go get that Tulane Green Wave this weekend, okay?
We're going to do it, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.